Okay, I'm going to set up a N8M server on a remote virtual machine located in the cloud, in a cloud service named Hostinger. Um, I'm on a Windows computer and I have BitVice set up to connect to that virtual machine at IP address 92.112.184.206. I'm going to connect to the terminal, which is right here, and I'm going to utilize a SFTP window, which is wonderful because it lets me drag and drop between my Windows computer, which I will set um, the local file system to be this. So I kind of mimic the structure on Hostinger, and here's the root, which has var, home, etc., webs, root. So I'm going to install this guy in webs, which I have a couple of applications running in webs. There are more over here because I haven't uploaded them to my computer or downloaded. Okay, I'm going to follow some instructions by Claude. So where is Claude? Here, Claude, Claude. Here's Claude. Oh, snap. Something's wrong with Claude. So what do we do? We reload Claude. And we go to a list of conversations. And we started a conversation on my iPad. So I want to set up an N8M server. I could do it on my Windows laptop, but I understand that could be difficult. I also have a remote VM running in Hostinger, or I could set up one in AWS, which would be easier to set up and connect to my Windows laptop. He tells me that Hostinger VM would be the easiest. Amazon is powerful and scalable, but requires more configuration. Specifically, lots of permissions and roles, which I'd rather not get into. A Windows laptop would be challenging. So install Node. I already have Node running. Node version. Node dash dash version. So I have Node version 12.16. I have NVS, which tells me the current version I'm running. node version 22.16. So assume that's good. Then we're going to run npm install N8N -G. I guess it's taking a little bit of time. We might edit this out of the video. I'll be right back. It's Friday night, so I'm having a scotch. Why is it taking so long? When you have a virtual machine on the internet, um, things are much faster than when you're running a computer locally, um, because when you're running a computer locally, you're going through your Comcast or your whatever. Now they're pretty fast these days, but chances are that the speed of your internet connection is much faster um, on a VM that's located on a hosting service because they're really located in the center of the internet, not on the periphery. So one way we could kind of check that out is we could um, ping Google and see how long it takes. So on my Windows computer, it takes, well, gets faster every time it tries, but I would say the average was around 100 milliseconds to get to Google. If I perform that same thing on Google here, oops, it's taking only 6 milliseconds to get to Google. So I guess he should be over here. You want to know what's amazing? Is that notice my face. If I look straight at the camera, it sort of knows. I don't know how it does this. Um, but if I move it over here, it knows to just see my profile. How in the world does it do that? More face on. If I go over here and look at it face on, it really doesn't want to see my face. Whereas here, it did. Where's my hand? Where's my hand? Okay, we always get diverted. So we have installed npm. We got a lot of messages, but hopefully those are deprecated messages. They want funding. So it should, we don't want to give him money. It should be okay. So let's go to the next step. He just says configure to run your VM public IP. What is my VM's public IP? I know what it is. It's 92.111.184.206 because that's the IP that I'm connected to. However, I then ask, okay, I've installed N8N using NPM, which is the node package manager for installing things, on a Ubuntu VM. Tell me how to do step 4. I was curious to know if it remembered what step 4 was. And keep it running with PM2. PM2 is a process manager, I guess the second iteration of it, that lets you run servers so that even if you log off, when I log off here, it will still be running. And then he said in step 5 that I needed to set up SSL, which is what makes HTTPS encrypt everything that gets sent between whatever my IP address, which is going to be 92.112.84.206, and this port, which is where N8M is running. There's a nice confusion between the term server and service. A remote server, or any computer that is acting as a server, can have multiple services running. If you look at your local Windows computer, the task manager, you will see that it is running some apps, but it's also running background processes. I shouldn't have gone here particularly. I don't know why I'm still using Creative Cloud. But each of these background processes are a service, and they have a particular port associated with them, which is not readily visible. We won't go into that. So, create an N8M configuration file. So, he says I should go to a directory called tilde, cd tilde, which I can do. CD, he didn't tell me that, but I know that. So cd tilde is actually the root directory. So that's the home of my user account, and I'm logged in as root. So in this directory, there are a bunch of hidden directories. Here's a hidden directory for PM2. There is no hidden directory for N8M. So supposedly he wants me to create one. So I'll create a directory. So now there is one right there. So it's somewhat hidden, but which is what the period and the beginning mean. But be that as it may, I can see it. When you do something like ls minus l, you will not see any hidden directories. But ll is something that most Unix people know and love. We'll show you all directories, including hidden ones. So he wants me to use a program called Nano to edit this file. Now I could do that. I could say Nano, and this is going to be used a text-based editor, and it's going to come up blank with all these control characters to do things with. And the only way to get out of here is to hit Control C, Control X. So we're now out. But a better way is to use this guy. And again, on the left side, it has my configuration. So I'm going to end up going into the root directory. And the only folder that I've copied locally is the SSH folder. So I'm going to go to root. And there's a lot here. But now you can see I have to hit refresh because it doesn't know that I just created this folder. So I can open up this folder and I can see that there's nothing there. So instead of using Nano, I can simply create a file called what? Config, just plain old config. Create file. CONFIG. So now that we've created that file, we can say that we want to edit it. And there it is. Now this is a rather tricky operation because I'm using a local text editor on my Windows machine, and I'm editing a file on the remote VM machine. But I'm actually not doing that. I'm actually editing a copy of that file that has been put into a temporary directory. So this wonderful Bitvice program downloaded this file, saved it in the temp directory, and is allowing me to edit it as if it were a local file on my Windows computer. And then I can paste in what he's suggesting, add this to it, and then I can be in my local text editor, and I can paste that in there. And he's sort of telling me to use my public IP address. He should have said that I should set it for my host name, but oh no, I guess I'm going to keep it as host name of 0.0.0, which basically means the local computer. And then I'm going to change this part to my IP address. So we know that my IP address is 92.112. 182.206. This will allow me to connect to this server from anywhere, from my local computer, just like I'm connecting to it now. But in this case, I want to actually, in this program, I'm actually connected to what's known as an SFTP service, which has its own port 22. And then this guy here was connected to an SSH service, which has a port number of 22. So I'm about to create a connection to another service, and that service is going to be running on port 5678. So this computer has many services running, but so far I've just told you about 3 of them. So we're going to save, when we save this on our local computer, you'll notice that over here, I don't know if I've already saved it, but for some reason it has 89 bytes associated with it. And one always looks at save dates. So at 8:29, that was 2 minutes ago, it was saved. But if I go back here to my text editor and I click save, it's now going to be 90 buttons. Oh, I know why that is. My text editor has an auto save feature. But there's two, if I close this text editor and I reopen it, and sure enough, it has what I've got in here. But there are 2 potential problems. One is that whenever I save a file on my local computer, it thinks that the file format is a Windows PC file format. I won't go into what all that means, but it's necessary that this be saved as a Unix format. So I'll save it, and it's now saved again. I would think that it would have a new save date, but it didn't. The other problem is, I don't know if there's a problem, but sometimes with some files, you have to give it execute permissions. So we're going to do that. And this little permissions thing is going to change over here. It changed. Okay, so we've now created a config file according to Claude. We did it a slightly different way, but we did it in a lot easier way than using Nano. You could look at the file again on Nano, and you'll see that it does have the information that we wanted it to have. So back to Claude. Now, I also asked that I wanted to run this thing using PM2, which is a package manager that runs everything. You'll notice that if I just say PM2 list, we are currently running one service. Again, we know that the port number is 3001. And it's for a website for IODD, which I can go there and say, I want to go to 92 3001. and it may or may not work. But I just happen to know that there is a domain name associated with this, and there's also routing that domain name to um, um, iodd.com. And so there's our website at that location. I think if I go to inspect network, network, it may or may not tell me on that. Network. Reload the page. So we reloaded the page. This tells you everything that it did. There it's telling me the remote address is actually port 443, not 3001. But we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so the next step is PM2. So we just looked at how this particular service for a website, for the IODD website, is running. We need to create a second line here for the N8M website. So my friend, how do we do that? We've installed PM2 already. He wants me to do this. I don't think I want to do that. Dear, dear, dear. I want to create. This is allows PM2 to start a whole bunch of websites and services, but I only want to start one. So if I go to here and I go to my webs and I go to the IODD one, here we do have a ecosystem config, but I don't think I want to use that. I want to go into IODD and I want to go into this particular JSON file. And we see that for this one app, we have a name, we have a script, which is the program that it's going to run. We say we want it to watch a particular directory so that if any file changes go, I want to have a log of out file, a log of everything that happened. I want to have a log of all errors, and I want to create some environment variables. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this file. Easier said than done. I think we'll just copy the name of this file and we'll go up. Where does he want me to save this file? I'm going to save it in here. And create a file. So I'm going to give it a name of N8N, N8N. And I'm going to say that it's a service. That's what the S means. And I'm going to run on a particular port, which is going to be port 576. It's lost my new file. So I'm going to call it N8N dot JSON. So that's going to be like the name of this service. So now we're going to edit it. And we're going to copy all of this. And we're going to put it in here. But as in this one, we're just going to say, we're just going to put this as the top. Because we only have one app. So this is going to be N8M. I want to name it my own name, N8N underline S5678. We're going to run a script NSN, which is a little bit problematic because I don't know where that script is. We're not going to watch anything. We're going to set these variables. We kind of got to do this again. 92.182.206.22. No, that's not right. 192.112. Colon 518. So there we go. So we're going to save it. And given the fact that we always make mistakes, we want this file to be S. I'm going to edit it again and see that it's that. So this, we don't quite know where the script is, but we'll see. Maybe N8N. Huh. Ooh, lots of errors though. Well, it found our config file, but it doesn't seem to be a valid NSN file. Partly because it's not a valid NSN file. We need to tell Claude about that. Claude. So before we even start N8M with PM2, I just tried to see if I could start it by itself. So I'm going to tell him that. Um, we are in the process of configuring PM2 to run N8N, but I thought it a good idea to see if N8N is running by itself before asking PM2 to run it. Remember, we want PM2 to run it because if we run it by itself, when I log out, it'll stop running. So we want PM2 to run it and keep it running forever. But so when I did that, I got this error, which implies that the N8 and the path N8M/config file you had me create is not a .json file. So what you might ask is a .json file. You're absolutely right to test N8N first. The issue is that N8N expects environment variables, not a config file in that format. So now he's telling me to remove that file. Mm. So they want us to have a bunch of variables, which is what we saw in PM2, because PM2, as part of its startup configuration, did want me to set these environment variables. So there are various ways in which we can set environment variables. We can set them in a script, and I'll just borrow. We can set them from the command line with the word export, which means set the variables and keep them around. Otherwise, if we just set them, they'll go away. And I've often said that the IT world has about 10 different ways to do what my first computer instructor used to call gazinta. So this value is going to gazinta this variable. And then this variable, this value is going to gazinta the port. But another symbol for gazinta is a colon. I grew up using APL, and the gazinta symbol was a left pointing arrow. Some gazintas let you have spaces between them, but not in Unix. So you can't have any spaces between the equal sign and the gazinta value. So we could copy these lines here, and we could go to the command line, and we could say, well, first of all, he told me to erase this file, but I'm going to set these guys. So now, if we just say set, we get much too much information. If we say set awk slash, no, it's way too much. How about N8N slash N8N. So if we ask to look at all of config variables that start with N8N, I didn't end it with a quote. There they are. However, there's only 3 of them. And the last one doesn't look good. Well, yes, it does. Oh, I know. The last one had a comma after it, which is not good. And then we need something else called webhook. So you'll never do this, but we could say we want NSN or webhook. So there's the 4 of them. So now when NSN starts, it will look for this information in these, they call them environment variables, which Windows has too. But this is all not very good because we got to set these all the time. But before we do that, to see if it works, we have to get rid of this file because I bet we could have made this file a JSON file and had it work, but he didn't tell us that. So we're going to erase that file. So it's gone. What folder am I in? I'm in the root folder. I could go into .n8n. No, not N8N. And look at the files that are there. So if you may remember, we had a config file there. Now we just have this PM2 config file. So let's just try N8N. So a lot of times when you start up these programs, they love to print out tons of information. But it says that NA is ready on this port. So let's go see if it is ready on this port. So we'll go to our local browser. It's thinking it's probably not going to work because I believe, oh, wait a minute, it said that it's stopping. So that's a problem with, running things locally. They stop right away. Um, well, see, if I press O to open a browser, that's not going to work because there is no browser on a remote computer. But maybe my local Windows computer can go there. Now, we probably still have to do some more configuration work. But there's this alternative. Um, to you could also do this, which will set up environment variables on the command line before we actually run. And I didn't say N8N start. Maybe I should have done that. No. Problem with that is that we need to put into this command my IP address, which is what? 92.168.184.206. It's now accessible, but is it? County line to me. Possible that I have to say HTTP colon slash. No. Okay. So let's see what else he says. So I think we got these environment variables set. If we run it in PM2, PM2 N8N underline S, the support number again, 56, well, that's easy, 5678. How about PM2 start? S2. As I suspected, it didn't find a script by that name. No, it's called .json. But it says that the JSON is malformed. So we should go back to here. This file seems as though it's still there, but if I refresh it, it's really not. Oh, look, I got some log files. Oh, we got a database that it's created. Oh, well, this stuff here is not valid. And this is not valid. You can, in TextPad, my editor, you can check to see if various thingies are closed. So this is an object. This is an object. No. Just a little different. But that's at the top. This guy, he's going to go up to there. Then you have something similar. We need another one that goes up to there. Except for the fact that there was no I think it has to be, this curly brace means it's a one object. But I think it wants us to have this be an array. And the array only has one element. So that's, so we have multiple apps, but we only have one. This is the only one we have. Why is it, what's going on here? I think it's okay. So we now have a valid JSON file. So let's see if this works. Sure, it's working. Okay, so now it's running. But is it available? Probably not, because it wasn't available when it was running by itself. So we'll try again. No. All right, we're not done. We need to back up here. Make sure that the port is open in your VM's firewall. So I think we missed this command. So we need to, you're not allowed to just let any person on the internet come into this port. We have to actually open the port into the Ubuntu firewall. You poke a hole into the firewall. It's like a brick wall that only lets certain things through. So we added a rule for that. And now, will it work? Ta-da! So it's running. Or using Safari. Um, if you prefer to disable the security feature, set the environment variable to NSN secure cookie to be false. So we have another environment variable to deal with. My friend Claudie didn't tell us about that. So I'll just let him know. You you forgot FORG. You tell me that if I don't create a secure HTTPS if I don't create, i.e. use, or use a secure FTF protocol, which again, as I said, protocol, which encrypts data from my browser into the server. If I don't create, then I have to set this environment variable equals false. You're absolutely right. I apologize for missing that crucial detail. So he says I can export it. I can um, do that. I can put it into my PM2 configuration file, which is slightly different. So we're going to just copy that line and go to my PM2 configuration, which is probably, it's just open in TextPad. And it's probably the last time I open it, but notice I have multiple ones open. And that can get dangerous. I'm going to close that one and hope that this one is indeed the latest one. Okay. Now it's good that I asked him because, just because it's supposed to be set to false, 0 is often a synonym for false. The word false could be one possibility, and then a character string that has the letters FAULE is another possibility. So there are 3 ways to set this, but but Claude probably knows the right way. So we've got to restart our PM2 server, which in theory we can just say now PM2 list, and I can say PM2 restart N8N underline S5678. And it will tell me that I don't know what this means, but the uptime is 0 seconds, so that's a good sign. It was up for 6 minutes. So now it's been restarted, and let's see if we in fact get something different. No. So this didn't work. So as I was discussing, it looks like Claude didn't realize the right way to set that variable. We also should be absolutely sure that we've edited the right one. It was a 905, so we probably did edit the right one. You can edit it. But let's try just setting it to false without anything there. Let's try that. Restart it. It's also possible that we have to kill it and then restart and then start it again. All these little gotchas. I'm going to try deleting it. Delete. Now, for all these operations, except for start, you can use its name, but for its starting it, you have to say Jason. Maybe we shouldn't have used setup. Aha. We are cooking with gas now. Set up the owner. Try that. Password. Yeah, right. We're going to use a password command. Capital N8N Really want to do that. Can't do that. All right, let's get started. So come on. Get paid features for free. Now there's an oxymoron if I've ever seen one. Did I skip it? I mean, if it's free and it's forever, okay. So create your first workflow. All right. So I'm watching a YouTube video that is instructing me on how to do this. So where is that video? We can go to YouTube and we can look at my YouTube history. Oh, there it is. So it's going to remember where I was. I don't want to look at you, Mr. Wonderful.
I joined Start Engine as a strategic advisor, call it. So it's an F1 knowledge base, retrieve relevant details on Formula One with this tool. And then Libit, we saw this before with the simple vector.
So here's where he starts telling me about N8N.
This is somewhat related in the sense that it's a car and these are motorsport regulations. And it comes back with, sorry, I don't know, which is ideal. But this is our RAG agent now set up. There is a bit of a lack of transparency in the sense that we can't see the chunks that were retrieved to help generate this text, nor do we have citations. But at least we are getting a response that's somewhat accurate.
So he showed two methods to do RAG. The first method was using Google's, maybe we have a table of contents.
Citations referring to technical regulations, and this is.
He says no code RAG using Google's anything LLM.
Still the technical regulations. Down here, number 11 is a different section of the technical regulations. So
there's Notebook LLM.
Chanel. What's the weather like in New York? It's going to look into those documents and it's not going to find anything that's of relevance.
And then so then he's going to go to OpenAI, and they have the ability to create a RAG and a vector database and all that good stuff. But as he sort of says, you don't really know what's happening. And the transcription says NADM is.
Cloud account on their platform. So you become familiar with N8N. You can self-host it locally or on cloud infrastructure like Railway or LSDO. And if you are following along with the build, I do recommend pausing the video regularly so you can make sure your configuration is aligned to what I have in the video. If you go to N8N, and let's just kick off workflow so it is triggered manually, type in OpenAI, and then we're going to.
So this is where we are. He said I could go watch his video and see how to do things. But now that I have this thing running. I should probably put this in a separate video page, and I'll put this in a separate page as well, so I don't get confused. So this is going to be my N8M page. And this is going to be my video. With the mini player. Can I take the mini player out of there? No. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to try this one, theater mode. That's, oops. That's my console of my Unix machine. This is just a video. So we'll put that there. And what does he say to do first? He says, well, why does that say OpenAI?
Older sport regulations. And it comes back with, sorry, I don't know, which is ideal. But this is our RAG agent now set up. There is a bit of a lack of transparency in the sense that we can't see the chunks that were retrieved to help generate this text, nor do we have citations. But at least we are getting a response that's somewhat accurate. So now to bring this into an automation platform, if you are brand new to N8N, then to quickly get started with this masterclass, I do recommend signing up to a cloud account on their platform. And then once you become familiar with N8N, you can self-host it locally or on cloud infrastructure like Railway or LSTO. And if you are following along with the build, I do recommend pausing the video regularly so you can make sure your configuration is aligned to what I have in the video. If we go to N8N, and let's just kick off workflow so it is triggered.
So he said, I suppose create workflow. And then your license key is on the way. We don't care about that. So
Really? And then type in OpenAI, message assistant, as you can see there. And from here, then we can choose the assistant or F1 advisor. And for memory, let's set it to thread ID. Oh, we're getting an error actually. So instead, let's just use the memory connector.
okay, well he's going too fast. So I will stop this session. It's been about an hour and 10 minutes. And now that we have N8M installed, I could show you a quick example, I suppose, of a complex. Here it is. This is what, if you take his course, which I think is 2 hours and 21 minutes, you will end up with a workflow that has separate workflows in it. One of them is for ingesting documents from PDF or Word or websites. Well, it seems as though working with models and RAG, one fundamental way is to utilize your own documents that get converted into vector databases. And then that's what you use. They call it grounding the information so that the model will only answer questions based upon the RAG data. It's called retrieval augmented data, or I don't know what the G stands for. Or you can go scrape websites and get your information from there. Um, and then, regardless of how you get your information, then you have another workflow that travels over here and then goes to a model and makes its way back to a result. Um, I guess I should turn off this. So this last thing goes back out to your web browser, I think. Um, so that's a very complicated workflow that's created with drag and drop, and you can right click on any one of these nodes and give a lot of parameters for it. And it's pretty, I've never done drag and drop programming, but I'm excited about it. I'll put this over here and I will take a drink wherever the drink is. There it is. And as I've seen somebody say recently, I will see you on the other side.